The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of a never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
All right, everyone, welcome to the 30th episode World Blockchain Roundtable. Hosts for today are Greg from Rivet, Dave from Din.social, Rory from Grid, an American infrastructure company, Ross from Global Crypto Press, Sean, entrepreneur. I'm Joe, architect, founder of Dragonchain. Quick update on the roundtable last week. Each host will receive 266 lot layer ownership tokens. Every topic contributor will get 55 lot. We got through a lot of questions last week, right? Ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits in the layer, and importantly, governance votes. And speaking of which, we just launched layer community decentralized governance last week on Den, and we have 4 up for this, for the show that everyone can weigh in on. Everyone needs to go and vote if you can, because I'm excited to see how this stuff develops and see what everybody thinks. The first one, cool. The first one is a change proposal that is, what will be the topics for the month of January? And so this is how we're going to start doing this, where at the beginning of the month, we'll let anyone propose some new topics, and then we'll throw them into a vote the second week of every month. And then by the end of the month, we'll have the top 4, or I think in like March next year, there are 5 weeks. So that type of thing. We'll have the topics all laid out, and then the next month we'll fill them back up and we'll keep going. Right. So that'll work. The next is, let's see here. Should we add a speculation segment to every show? And whether it's topic based or not kind of depends, but important projects that people should look at, and we're not even necessarily talking price speculation. We're talking about important things that are happening in the blockchain world. What should the audience be looking at that we might know, especially if we have new guests on and everything else. The next, so there are a lot of them because we pretty excited to do this stuff. So to introduce a new segment in every show to discuss current events. It's what we used to do when we had the roundtable, which was the local meetup in Seattle. It was very useful because it kind of gave an intro or a point for people to start talking about something that had happened in the world, especially in the blockchain world. What should be the length of each roundtable episode, because we're constantly hitting that where we hit an hour and we really haven't gone through as many questions as we might have wanted to, or in some cases as deep as we'd want into some of the topics. So, should we make it an hour and a half? I think the options are keep it at an hour, make it an hour and a half, or make it 2 hours. I think that was it. We can at least start with that and see how it goes. 2 hours is probably a little rough depending, but some of us could do it. It just depends on schedules, I guess. So that's everything. Theme this week is DAOs, which is very appropriate. A lot of interesting stuff coming about with DAO tech, and that is decentralized autonomous organizations. So effectively, it is smart contract driven, or at least the ability to have votes that are held by decentralized parties that can weigh in a community or in an organization in a way that moves that organization forward. And it's, a lot of the interesting tech is on either the interface to the smart contract or the smart contract to the execution. That is, how does a smart contract make things happen in the real world? So that's kind of where we're at. And there, of course, there's a really wide ranging. So anybody have anything to weigh in on DAOs that would be?
Yeah, I was going to say that was a pretty timely time, I guess, to demo the governance proposals for the layer, because since we just got those implemented, because that's basically, DIN is iterating towards DAO every time it updates these governance tools and stuff like that. So that's like one more iteration, like further decentralized to that goal. So that was
right.
That'll be cool. Because I know that like other brains can bring in topics that I wouldn't think about. So
yeah.
And
I would add on just that, especially for folks who may not be familiar with the technology bit, that DAOs present a unique opportunity for people to create group action out of what would traditionally be governed spaces. Like, so if you have a board of directors for your company, or a community organization like a city council, these types of things can be done without electing and placing central people to control it. It's a way for communities to govern group decisions without having governors. So that would be what I would add.
Very good. Anybody else? And we can go to the questions. Hey, yeah, Roy.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to pose a question to the hosts, because I like, you said we're talking about DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, and like classic me, like, oh, I got to jump in right there and push back or get some clarification. So I kind of feel like DAOs are already moving towards like an ATM machine, where we say we have a redundancy there. Like, does a DAO mean a decentralized autonomous organization, or is it just kind of its own definition now? And what does autonomous mean? So I kind of wanted to ask everybody's idea of like, what does autonomy mean to you in this particular context? Because to me, it doesn't have a clear definition. And like, I hate how like in a college essay, you start out with the definition of autonomous according to Merriam-Webster is da-da-da. Yeah. But I think it's important here. And so I just pulled it up, and I think that there are 4 different definitions that come up, and each one of them can be interpreted differently based on how somebody thinks and interacts with an autonomous organization. So it's of a country or region having the freedom to govern itself and control its own affairs. It's having the freedom to act independently. It's denoting or performed by a device capable of operating without direct human control, which is, I think, how we thought about it initially. But I'm kind of more, of maybe the first definition now, even though I was probably more of this definition initially. And then in Kantian moral philosophy, I didn't even know this, acting in accordance with one's moral duty rather than one's desires. And I actually think all 4 of those are kind of interesting definitions. And I'm just curious if the hosts have some thoughts.
I think there's definitely a distinction in it. I didn't make a lot. I mean, it's all new anyway, but I didn't really think too much about when we did it with DIN, and we were thinking about the same sort of questions. And I think the term we use is hybrid DAO at this stage, right? Because we're sort of in this in-between point where DIN started more centralized and is getting less centralized, as a goal. But I think that, there's things that can happen automatically with a device or with software that, is not dangerous in case something goes wrong. And it's such a new state right now that I like having someone that's managing and sort of like directing, but they're held to a standard that is dictated by the community that is telling them what to do. Sort of a republic like sort of situation.
Governance board or a community board of directors.
It is, but it's with a new tech that allows us to do it right, maybe, or to do it more reliably. I think maybe some of the hardline Taoists, wouldn't like some of the things that I would like to do, which is just implement that tech into existing frameworks. Yeah. I guess
I want to take what Roy said a step further. I don't know about y'all, but I'm here for the Greg lecture. I mean, this is Greg's day. So I'm ready. I'm like Billy Madison when he went back to school. I'm ready to learn.
Did we freeze?
Oh, man. I was going to say, I think it's all the above. I think it's a huge spectrum, and we need to stay away from dogma as much as possible because, frankly, you have to worry about semantics because sometimes people say, oh, wait, it's not autonomous, or it's not decentralized, or it's not even an org. And you really think, well, this is really just taking governance and using crypto to see what's possible to do in the real world with it. And that could be, the thing I'm interested in for how things develop is, will the DAO or will the crypto world realize what the real world has in ancient times and forgotten since, the difference between a republic and a democracy, and how will that affect things? And a lot of it depends upon how you model the power of a vote, or how you measure someone's ability to influence that organization or that contract. And that could be, okay, in a republic, you have certain protections. In a democracy, you have certain things that are open, but risks in both cases. So anyway.
Yeah, you talk about types of governance systems, and I think about it as organizations of governance systems. So we've had certain ways that we've done this before. We've had the church, right? We've had the feudal states. We've had the post-Westphalian peace, and we've had sort of nation states, and we've had the company, which then became the multinational corporation. And I think now we have DAOs. And so I think that the DAOs get a lot of criticism because it's like, oh, you could do this on a database, or that's not really decentralized, or that's not whatever. And it's like, you know what, man? We're just trying a new, creative space for how we can organize ourselves and how we can properly remunerate people for the contributions to an organization.
Right.
Because in the church, you get remunerated by or the CCP, you work up in the party, or the church, there's the difference between sort of the ministers and
right,
the
you rank up.
Yeah. So this is
Right.
just a new creative design space to me, and that's what's most exciting. And so I'm with you. I'd really try to stay with
Yep. Well, and you can think about all of those things. Like autonomy could mean more like automatic, right? There are cases where you want your DAO to execute code when a vote happens, and that's that. And it should be a predefined thing that the DAO does in that case, right? I think Party DAO is a great example where they built the party bid. They have this thing set up where anybody can join this pool, and they pool their resources into bid on a single NFT, and the DAO is spun up temporarily for just that auction. And if they hit the right amount, then it executes. And that's all its purpose is, outside of giving people voting power over what we do with this thing if we win it. But then you have things more like layer governance, where it's going to be a lot more like the fourth definition, where you're going to have a duty to execute on the will of the DAO's voters that is defined by the spirit of the thing, as opposed to the code execution. So I think it can be a lot of those different things depending on the context.
Yep.
And I think you can
That's
start
so
as that
cool.
last one if it's easier, and then roll into a more complex version of it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we're talking about now how people interpret the Constitution, right? Are you a strict constructionist? Are you looking at case law?
And
how do you? I just find it so.
And by the way, our philosophy at Dragonchain is everything's an economy. So I would actually tend to say this is governance by economy, where the economy is set, based upon, what's your scarcity, what's your, what's the value someone brings, blah, blah, blah. And the more effective you measure that and tie it to the things that benefit the organization, the more valuable and productive the organization is going to be. So, okay.
So you're really
question.
focused on the emergent behavior of the economy,
Yes.
rather than kind of trying to dictate from up top.
Yeah, that's what I think. So it's philosophical a little bit. Okay, so first question from crypto enthusiast. Please explain the basic elements of what makes a DAO work, and how can a community with no knowledge of the technology actually take advantage of it? So who wants to take that?
I'll take the second half of that. I think we just went through the first half pretty well, because that's basically what we're doing. Like that's so much of my focus with Den, and I know it's a lot of the focus for the team. Whatever the distinction is, the developers and Joe and the rest of the team, is to make this not for crypto people and make it not for people that have to look at code, much less write code. Because I've worked with musicians a lot, and like people that aren't into computers, and I've given people like a small script before that says, just run this, you'll see some things on your terminal, it's fine. and they still freak out because they feel like, oh my gosh, did I get hacked? You know, people just are not going to do stuff complicated if it's scary. So with DIN, I think, and this is totally a plug, I guess, but you know, we just launched this governance stuff for the layers. We're launching the DIN wide governance next year, and it's all stuff where you can just click a button. You don't have to know that you even have crypto. It's just points. It's just an app. You're part of a community, things that you're super familiar with. So I think that it's on the engineers and the builders to make it inclusive of people who are, you know, going to stray away from it if it's too raw, I guess.
I would say add that there are elements of a DAO that probably we didn't directly mention that we could probably just throw some basic clarity in on. So a DAO is sort of like, imagine you've got an organization that has a treasury, and there are a bunch of people who are part of that organization that have voting rights to direct how that treasury gets spent. That is basically a DAO, except, you know, the key difference between that and a traditional organization is that there is no governing body that overrules or, you know, runs like a republic your will. You as a member of the DAO are guaranteed voting rights based on your stake, right? So however much you've contributed to that treasury, that's how much voting power you have. And that way, you know, that way the people who contribute the most to it are the people who make the decisions about what it does.
Exactly. Thank you for answering my question.
I mean, with that though, there's kind of the situation that you have to worry about where do the whales just become the governing body?
That's
Is it no different, you know?
Yeah.
And I had one experience that was like that. Okay, so there was a token that I got into real early, and then they did a fork, and you had to go and then claim the new tokens, and there was a whole process for it. And you know, obviously they don't have email addresses for everyone who participated, you know, early on and just got the tokens from an exchange. So basically they relied on people following their Twitter or one of their social media or some other way to see that this fork had happened and that you needed to claim the new tokens. And there was an expiration date on this. But what the DAO did was they said, okay, we've only had like 70% of token holders exchange their old tokens for the new ones. We're going to put it up for a vote. The remaining tokens, we all can split between ourselves, or we can extend the date for people to get the fork token. And guess what they did? You know?
I wonder what they did.
I mean, the DAO doesn't solve a lot of stuff, man. And
it's true. It's true.
Human nature
it's a great point.
Well, you know, Ross, that's an interesting thing because I did a review on a project last month, and I got some comments that, oh, this is a scam, because what they did is they did a token migration, and you know, I researched this for like 2 hours, an hour, something, not long, and I found literally Medium articles, like tons and tons of posts. We're doing this migration next month. We're doing this in 3 weeks. We're doing this in 2 weeks. We're doing this in 5 days. And then, you know, you've got to, they put out so much information. And then afterwards, they had that same problem. They said, you know, there were people that, you know, are mad because they, you know, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So don't sell any and don't buy any of the old tokens. Leave your wallets alone. And we're making a plan. But it was like the team. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't a decentralized autonomous organization. So then they came out with this, you know, plan. Just, you know, submit your wallet address here. And as long as you haven't bought or sold any of the old coin, we're going to give you the new. And then, you know, a lot of people, of course, they're like, oh, now the price is dropping or whatever. So they went and tried to scoop it up to make more money. And then they said, no, you're trying to get, you know, the same amount of the new coin, which is at $1, for the old coin that was 50 cents. We said, don't buy any. It's blockchain. We can see what you did. So then all these people are like, this is a scam.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, like what the hell? Why not just write it down on a freaking notebook at this point?
Well,
you know, it's like,
yeah. I think the thing to remember is DAOs are like a governance tool, right? It's a tool. We can still set up a crappy system like, you know, like one that I know of where money and power dominate who controls it.
But also, but see, also from what Ross said, it takes the, you know, it's kind of like you don't want to tell your kid no, go ask your mom. so that it
Can I-
does save the team.
Can I throw in something
from that?
Yeah, can I throw in something too that, this has come up in conversations before, and I've even mentioned it on the show with Larry Sanger from founder of Wikipedia, right? That his issue with blockchains, especially because of his experience, I can't remember what the project was, is the whale effect. How do you counter the whale effect? And I've always answered, it's like, guys, this has been solved in real life way before, thousands of years before crypto came. And that is literally the Republic. That if you read Victor Davis Hanson's book on multiple books on ancient Greece and the dangers of democracy, literally that the effect of the whale is already existed with demagogues in the past, where you would get effectively little gangs of people that would act as despots and basically destroy people, do all types of things that are obviously bad and driven by war or greed or whatever else. And so instead of that, there are angles, there are ways to handle it.
Right.
And the things that we're doing in Den are modeling some of that. We have a couple of other projects where we're looking at modeling different types of abstractions but it's all around behavior. So it's all around who measurably is bringing the most value to whatever the goals are that we've set, right? And that helps us set future goals as well. But it's something that you have to have core goals, and you have to know, how can I measure if somebody is actually helping us get there? And then they can have more weight. And it, literally, if you wanted, you could, and not that you would, but you could even model things like altruism. I wouldn't, but it's an odd thing to consider, because you can throw in elements that counter the natural human inclinations to do something greedy that is not with a lot of foresight, right? So,
well, I think that's the key point, is like the thing that distinguishes DAOs is threefold, right? It's, especially if it's on, and I think, it has to be on a public system that's transparent, that people can see what people are doing. So there's no back alley deals, right?
Right.
If somebody's cheating because you can see it. The second thing is a right of exit. Like, you could technically abandon a DAO and just go elsewhere. If your DAO is designed in such a way that your contribution cannot be taken with you when you go, that's not a very good DAO to join. The third thing really is, that distinguishes, you can set up a new one that does the same purpose. So if you're encountering a DAO that's engaging in fuckery that's cutting you out because the whales have taken over, I guess since not all are created equal, and you might not be able to take your contribution with you when you exit, or the representation of your contribution with you when you exit, that's something to keep an eye on. But by and large, we have a right of exit, a thing you can spin up new things of relatively quickly, and the transparency to see when people are cheating. That if that accountability structure doesn't hold the whale's feet to the fire such that they play nice, that's a big key. You can also set up voting structures such that people who have an outsized share of ownership don't have an outsized share of vote. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one thing.
Right.
I think it's that classic argument that blockchain really doesn't fix everything. It doesn't fix corruption and all the negative things. It just it makes them easier to see. It makes them more transparent.
You can fix
so
them.
It's harder to get away with.
I think
And then you have all the avenues to go down that Greg was talking about. I do want to just knock me off. I wanted to say this. I wanted to expand on what Rory originally asked. Greg's going to probably answer it and all, but to go over for everybody what a DAO is and the basics. I have not a lot of people talk about this anymore, but when all this was coming about, a while ago, there's also decentralized autonomous corporations. And if you could kind of go into the nuances and the difference of a decentralized autonomous corporation or company, and then an organization, what makes them, so different?
Okay.
Well, I'd say corporations are subsets of orgs, right? And they have a particular stated charter for a mission, and it's a DAO that has a corporate mission. is how I would say it.
I mean, that's a good question to segue into this question, actually, Sean, because that's what I was going to actually talk about with what you were just talking about with corporations, with companies, is what that was going to be part of what my answer is here, which is that, like, you know, I've got Tesla shares and I get invited to the shareholder meeting and I can help them vote on stuff. You know, to me, it's a better way of doing things with lower overhead and higher accountability. So I don't see a reason that corporate America would not want to adopt that structure.
I didn't read the question. Did anybody read the question?
Yeah, it was. Oh, that's right. We didn't even enter the question.
Jacob Wayne, do you think corporate America will utilize DAOs since they started considering blockchain tech, or does it go against the very nature of centralization? Perhaps shareholders. I mean, shareholders are decentralized, right? Typically, perhaps shareholders could tokenize their stake in the company, interact with the DAO. The issue with it is it's a one-to-one because
it was on screen.
And I will say too, there is an interesting thing that is really important about how DAOs developed in the crypto world. Which, did anybody else lose any money in the first DAO in 2016? I think it was. Anybody else?
The Ethereum?
Yeah, the one that led to the
I did
Ethereum
not.
fork. Like a quarter of all Ethereum was in the DAO. I was actually happy to lose the money because I'm like, it was a beautiful experiment. I threw some money in because it was just such a cool thing, and I wanted to see it work. And there was an error in the code, and somebody emptied out all the contents, blah, blah, blah. Everybody went running to Vitalik, who then said, okay, yes, I'll flip a switch and we can fork it. And now that's why I still respect Ethereum Classic. And I don't know in its current, it's gone through a couple of weird political things that I don't follow, but that's why I respect it. It was a philosophical, stake in the ground. No, we're going to keep the same chain because it should not have been forked, and you guys should have all lost your money. It's a beautiful. If as said before, the code, the contract, the code is the law, then it should be the law. You shouldn't.
It's more philosophically pure. That's why it's probably good that they got the name Classic.
Yeah, and that's why, by the way, I realized, okay, at some point, and this is why we were already active in development at Disney with our chain, and we were seeing some of these things that when you expose that code, all of a sudden you have risks that most of the software world doesn't realize, right? It is the equivalent of a closed economy versus an open economy. It's a totally different beast, and basically the incentive is to attack your code. I mean, there's money there. People are going to attack it. If you have any holes, they're going to be found, and that's one of the reasons that it's an odd thing, and it's not precisely the same thing as what the open source world does, because the open source world is an abstraction. You can see all the code, but you can't see my instance of it, right? So that's an important thing, because if you're going to be very dogmatic about DAOs, you're on the one hand, you're going to have risks, but probably more importantly, you're going to have hurdles to adoption and to use. Like, say, in Ethereum right now, you can run DAOs that are very, very, how do I say, very successful. They have not had any failures, right? Why? Because they're very simple, which is why Bitcoin doesn't have Turing complete smart contracts. It's very simple, right? On purpose. So, you have certain things you can't do, and then the fees. The fees would kill anyone trying to run a real DAO with millions of people on Ethereum right now. It wouldn't be probably.
Not without a layer 2. You'd have to go on XDAO or something. Right.
And so, I mean, you're right. It's doable, but it's it is still. Why then would you be dogmatic? It's like, no, everything has to be decentralized. But it won't work. So let's do a layer 2 and let's say, which is our model anyway, right? So
that's where you get the market competing, right? Like you said, there's ETC and there's ETC Classic, right? Both of them are still on the market. One of them is arguably winning that that war of ideas in terms of what people would prefer, because one of them is worth more. But they're both still there.
I love the example of the DAO, because I think code is law died that day. Sorry.
Yeah. To Joe's point about Ethereum and its fees, over the last couple of weeks, there's been just an insane number of DAOs launched on both Binance Smart Chain and Avalanche. It's just this boom, basically all copying the Olympus DAO and the reserve currency idea, which is a whole nother thing. Probably a whole show on that one. But yeah, I mean, and it works. It's working fine. It is totally undoable on Ethereum right now, as is everything. But so far so good. I think I'm in 6 of them right now myself, and no complaints yet.
That's why we do it on our in-house Ethereum side chain.
I think Constitution DAO is a pretty good example of a DAO working on Ethereum properly, though.
Yeah. What was does anybody know the total fee cost for establishing and running that DAO? That would be interesting. How many?
There was a stat that I saw that was the average. I don't know the total fee, but it was the average donation, and basically at the average donation, it was 50% fees, 50% donation. So people were basically median donation was basically.
Yeah.
So the idea was that you could have had twice as much money.
Yes.
If you hadn't had the fees. Right?
Yeah, it's leak. And that is, by the way, when we set up anything in economy, we consider those fees or those they're leaks. It's a value leak to an out. I have this goal, and if I have to give up 50% of everybody I can get to come in to get to that goal, that sucks. Right. Anyway, but that's a different subject.
Right.
Also, it's for taking advantage of opportunities. I'll find a project I really like, and I want to go, put something into it, but I'm not going to pay like $180 fee for a trade on Uniswap. So I'll wait, keep once it gets below 100, 95, I'll do it. And then I end up not even getting into it. And then if it spikes, 3 days later, I'm mad at myself. But it really, the gas fees are just, they're insane, and they limit so much.
That seems to be the conversation all over the place right now.
They're providing a huge incentive for creating throughput, but there's really no technical way to do it yet. And that's I think where
dogma.
Time is going to engineer a solution, because there's such an incentive to be able to provide that capacity.
That's why it's all in architecture. It isn't going to be about math. It's not going to be about better Ethereum code or better Ethereum smart contract. It's literally architectural, and it is. In fact, when you talk about layer 2, that is more than anything a communication strategy, because you're then doing what we've been doing since 2014 by saying, look, we're going to have part of the network that isn't purely dogmatic, decentralized. And, but it has, for whatever reason, it's the only way to do it. So everybody accepts it. Why? Number go up. It's like, we have to keep the number going up, and we have to remain dogmatic on crypto Twitter. That's what it ends anyway with. So sorry. I'll shut up from here on about that.
There may be some, I definitely hear those points, right? Like there are places for, less decentralization where it works, right? But there's also sort of this important underpinning of, idealistic decentralization that keeps the nation states from shutting the whole operation down.
That is in the money side, though. That's what it's like. That's exactly what I'm saying. You find the one place that matters, which is in an escrow account. How can we most efficiently get money into a central place that nobody can control, including the people who are supposed to be at least administering whatever,
right.
That's
they all have their parts to play.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Even, to bring that fee discussion back around to the topic with corporate America, I think that's what's keeping a lot of business minds out. And even Bank of America is looking at Avalanche right now. So people are looking around at other stuff.
I keep talking. Fees. I'm going to add one more thing to the corporate America. The thing that corporate America should look at is the things that are totally, in my opinion, unrelated to the fees, everything else. It is primarily what are the legal and risk implications of using a DAO. That there are some initiatives that they might have that would be far better tuned with a decentralized governance than with setting up a joint venture with someone or setting up a
right.
And it's primarily for wisdom of the crowd, feedback. How can we get these communities to drive something that we want to happen? Because we give them some ownership, we give them a stake, we give them some governance ability, and now all of a sudden you have a lot of very interesting things that you can say, look, it's decentralized. We're a part of it, but we're not controlling it. And
it's kind of going along with the next question.
I was going to throw in something that does play in the next question before we move on. I don't think corporations are going to have a choice, because I think ultimately their shareholders will be faced with the question of whether or not they want to sell their shares to the control of a DAO.
Yes,
and that could be executed by a DAO and its controllers.
Yes,
I would add just a little wrinkle on that, which is that I don't think DAOs are good vehicles for our conception of what we're talking about here, corporate America. I think that we're definitely moving there. We're going to have to go there as the crypto economy grows and younger people are interfacing with this. Naturally, the economy starts moving in that direction. But I think in the way that this question is meant, I don't think corporate America can do that, and I don't think it's a good vehicle for it. But the wrinkle for me is that I think that DAOs would work really, really well within a corporation. And I think that's where they can start experimenting with it, is you have this little group that's running as a task force and this little group that's running as a task force. And to Joe Dragon's point, I think that was really brilliant, which is that we're not going to do a JV. We're not going to write up all these docs. We're going to have our little kind of like our little experimental wing and your little experimental wing join forces as a DAO. We're going to release some NFTs. We're going to do some tokens. We're going to work on some governance. And you can I think that it works better in that sense. So I think that they'll experiment on the edges there within the organization with these sort of like sub DAOs, like, oh, it's DAOs all the way down.
I don't think we're actually too far off, though, from seeing a decentralized autonomous corporate raider as a type of DAO.
Right.
Where it's like a forcible exit to community, and your shareholders have to take, your fiduciary duty is to take a reasonable buyout offer because it's good for your shareholders, and that could be
solve
a DAO
the
making
of
that.
The hand then, because that was the big issue with the Constitution DAO, was it's not the fees. We can work on that. Maybe we can do it on an L2 or Avalanche or whatever. We can we can figure out some of those technical problems. The issue for me is that there's a tension between the inherent transparency and ability to organize people, and that excites people, and the fact that it tips your hand in an auction or a negotiation.
It's the fiduciary duty aspect, actually. It is the fiduciary duty aspect. It's that the corporate board of directors has a duty to the shareholders to take a deal that is good. If it's a good enough deal, they don't get to not take it. And ultimately you reach a level of economics where it's not in some other business's interest to do that. Like a motivated enough community with enough resources behind it would not be stoppable.
Right. And I have we have we don't maybe have a great word for it, but a time-based process where something goes on chain but doesn't expose it. And if it's if it was a traditional like an Ethereum chain, then it could be encrypted. But if it's a hybrid chain and it's built in, that we all basically vote. We don't know how we voted, so we can't influence each other. But at some point in time, it's exposed, right? And you have
like a DAO stack, where you don't tell them what you're going for.
Yeah, you have the proof that it was on chain. Then that I can't change my vote after it. I mean, that is one of the things. And the other is some of the stuff that we've modeled in DIN is when people, to selective exposure or time-based exposure of the market. Like say inside a DIN, every single piece of content has a prediction market around it. So evaluators weigh in and get rewarded based upon how early they signal what the consensus ends up being. And that was one of the issues, that early on there was too much exposed. So people were just like sheep. They were like, oh, this is voted up, I'm going to vote it up. And without really looking at the content. And we flipped that, we kind of fixed it. And, that's a very specific case, but
it's interesting because you get measurable results that we can look at before and after the change and see that it's objectively a better experience, and it's driven more towards what the concept is.
And by the way, if you step away from what a lot of people would think of as quote unquote corporate America, which there's a lot of things that happen, some good, some bad there, a lot bad, and you look at, okay, if anybody's set up a company before, for me, it's a very weird thing when you read through the documents that you have to create to set up the company. It's like you're transported back in time to the Middle Ages or something and say, okay, we are all grouping together with a common interest to build this thing, right? And it's you have goals, you have objectives, whatever it is, for creating that company. And it's very much like a DAO. And if you applied it to, say, automaking, I don't know anything about automaking, but theoretically, you could put together a DAO to produce a new car, and it'd be very hard to make it successful. But it's hard to make a company successful, right? It's you could theoretically do that, where we all put money in, we have some ownership in it, and hopefully we produce a car that people want. Blah blah blah.
Right. Well, I mean, look at Wall Street Bets and AMC, right?
Right.
There are people out there who are enthusiastic about, A, screwing over the corporate overlords, and B, people who are enthusiastic about movie theaters, right? You get that community together, you get enough money into that. A distressed company isn't going to have buyout offers as good as the DAO is going to make.
Right.
And arguably decentralize that thing and give its governance to the people who care the most about it.
Yeah.
And you're going to have some good luck with it.
Just the usefulness of decentralized decision making in itself. I mean, on the internet, we're at a time like I look forward to the time where companies, like Rory was saying, that companies are going to have to just kind of migrate in the way that society is moving as younger people who are into this grow up, and as older people age out, like things will shift. But I look forward to having more companies where they're not the hiring process is just completely almost non-existent, where you have a framework and you model what a good employee looks like and what tasks they're supposed to perform to fulfill their duties, and they get paid out accordingly, and I mean, that's beautiful to just put something out that can be a honey to bees or something. Say, hey, if you want this, come do the work, and you don't have to sit there and screen people for a year to find the perfect people. People just show up that fit, kind of like
it's a draw.
like a spike protein binding to the right receptor,
or
something like that.
There could be lots of effort that doesn't pan out, that that people try for it, but they don't quite, like if you can do it, you can do it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can we go to the next question, because that is an important. It is an important question, because I've even had this question many times in the past. If you're going to start a DAO, would you start and register it outside the U.S. or in a crypto-friendly state like Wyoming? And there's a funny bit there that can you register a DAO outside of Wyoming? I don't know. I think more than anything that for me anyway, Wyoming is like, say, a portal, like maybe I don't know what you'd call it, maybe a decentralized port into the physical world, right? Because why would you register a DAO? There are interesting things in Wyoming that DAO can create new companies in a series. It's like an array of new companies that can be created that can do things in the real world, right? That's an interesting, very interesting thing. But yes,
because you need a legal entity, right? If you're going to have things like, I'm going to hire lawyers, or I'm going to hire a lobbying firm, or I'm going to hire traditional thing in the real world, a construction company. You need an entity for them to contract with that exists within the legal framework of meat space, and I think that's why Wyoming is a powerful choice.
So, Joe, you're saying that the Wyoming, the DAO LLC can spin up regular LLCs?
Apparently any company
kind of
in Wyoming can, any LLC in Wyoming at least.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Not special to that.
Series of other companies. So it's like
it's called a series LLC.
Yeah. Did Greg just call the real world meat space?
Meat space. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. No offense to real world.
Cyberspace and meat space.
We're all just living in it.
Yeah. We're all a figment.
No, we got to go to Wyoming. We're going to start a DAO, and then we're going to make a restaurant. We're going to call it Meat Space.
Meat Space. You don't. Good point, Sean. You don't actually have to be in Wyoming to start a Wyoming LLC. They'll let you start it from wherever you're at. So
is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm, totally.
You still have to have registered agents.
Part of it too is what you want to do. I mean, if you want to do things that are,
you just have to have a registered agent local to
not things that are
yeah, I almost started mine
in the U.S. I
in
think
Wyoming.
you would look elsewhere versus starting it in Wyoming.
Right. Right. We're gonna have some important features with DIN because we're considering it a governance as a service, so that normal people can take advantage of some of this technology for the transparency and the behavioral effect for their communities, and to allow them the full spectrum. You can come in and just treat it. I have a club and I need a way to make decisions, and I need a way to attract new people and stuff, but you can also go to the nth degree and say, I want to, this is successful. I want to actually use some of these tools that Wyoming has, to plug into it. And now all of a sudden you could spin off new entities to do the things that your organization wants to happen, hiring the lawyers or open up a lemonade stand or something, right?
Charles in the chat made a point about Texas. Texas is really also leading the way when it comes to blockchain and crypto, specifically the governor. So, and that's something with centralized politics that is terrible, because a lot of these initiatives are pushed by one person who could be gone in a matter of months. And this whole, it's a massive, huge movement. And if the next person that comes in isn't educated and or is educated in a different way, they could literally, like we've talked about, but that way, Joe, but also just a good natured, this is,
that's not what happens in politics. It is somebody that came from the banking committee that is educated under the table.
But there's people that they literally believe, no, this is just for bad stuff.
Well, and by the way, that's why the more the crypto world, the more we start thinking about this as what I used to describe as a parallel universe. Look, if you wanted to end red light cams, nobody likes red light cams. They're just lobbied into cities. The citizens don't like it. Nobody likes it except for the somebody who has a budget that wants the money. They're not constitutional. Right. Blah blah blah. You need a lot. You need basically lobbyists to go in and fix that. And a DAO is a perfect mechanism to say, look, these rules have been established by the powers that be, and they do not. They're not constitutional, and yet, even though everyone's taken that oath, they're still there and they're still enforcing them. The cops will still come in and tell you can't get a license if you haven't paid it, right?
Right.
And with a DAO, it's a parallel universe that can counter that. It's a way that it's just a tool, and it literally is outside of the rules that are established, and it can't be controlled. It's something they can't affect. It's not
right.
In the old world. It would be, we're going to institute this new rule, but then new people are voted in. It's like, we're going to put money in on these candidates because they're going to kill that measure. This is outside of that world. You can't touch that. It's like we have direct control over it because it's an economy. Now, theoretically, here's the weird thing that you would have to expect that the same people that affect what we know as the physical and legal world are going to potentially come in and apply those billions of dollars to those DAOs. So get in now, because that's the type of stuff. If you have a lobbyist DAO, it's going to be attacked by people with real money to counter it and to push it away from its original goals. So you have to have. Anyway. Yeah,
it has to be a thing that that you. Yeah, like if you, for instance, started a DAO, created a Wyoming LLC, and hired a K Street lobbying firm to target a specific issue, you would want to make sure that that how you spun that DAO up would not allow moneyed interest to take it over and essentially thwart your effort, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the idea is still powerful, because you're not going to see a whole lot of money lobbying at the local level. But you'll find a whole lot of people out there in the world who would contribute to a DAO to start chipping away at the notion of red light cams. So you will have a sort of crowd force multiplier, I think, when it comes to eradicating some of these things that people don't like but happen because money likes it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would just caution anybody spinning up something called red light DAO, because you might attract an element that you're not expecting.
I mean, if
honestly, that's the first thing I thought of. I was like,
red light cam DAO.
What do you think I was searching
for? They said red light cam.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
And I was like, what? They're intense now? Where? But That's a different intensity up there in Washington.
Okay.
All right. Probably the last question we get to, right? Angel Breaker. How and where or when to implement DAO structures in a company or a team level? I guess as a company and I think we already talked about that, right? That if you have an initiative, it does make potentially really good sense. And a lot of companies already kind of have a structure to do this, where they spin off some new company so that they have both less risk and it has a little more independence. So it's not. A lot of them do it because they know that nothing can get done at a corporate level because of all of the red tape and politics. So they spin off some small team to do something, and I think that's a perfect. Often it's probably a better angle than what they do right now, because yes, you have a small team, but you can have a small execution team and then a large community of people that have interest in the thing being successful, right?
Right, and it helps bandwidth a lot too. If you're finding bottlenecks and your different processes and decision making processes and things. What I've done is I used to do a bunch of since before the pandemic and stuff like that, music shows and festivals and things like that, event planning. And one of the things that I always sweated was getting it right from the perspective of what does the community want? I need to appeal to my demographic. And I want them to buy tickets to the show, right? So what I'm doing locally is I'm using one of our governance as a service features, and I'm trying it out with a real company in Florida, and we're going to do a series, 12 bands in 12 months, and then we're going to use the tools there to have a DAO structure to where people can decide what venue do they want to be supporting in town, what bands are new on the block that I haven't heard of, that it would take me months to realize they exist. Let the community make those decisions for me, and now I can focus on facilitating. I can focus on making sure that what's wanted is actually designed properly so it's fluid when it happens. Things that I do have expertise in, I can then just simply say, okay, what has everybody said we want? Awesome, and I can put the pieces together. So that's a version of that, applying it to just a specific part.
Anybody else?
Absolutely. I would say that all of the above. This is an experimental space, and there are a lot of things that people don't know it can do yet. So if you're interested in trying it, maybe a small side team is a great first experiment for you. Maybe some other experiment is what's right for you. What's key to remember about it is, if you do it, try to make it consequential, or be open about the fact that lessons learned proved that this wasn't a good idea. Right? You don't want to create this thing and let it just be a glom out there that never comes to anything. You either conclude with success or conclude with admitted failure and lessons learned. And that's how I would take it if I was going to use it for a company.
I like how you said that. I always like to encourage people in every walk of life to just go do something, right? Small. I like to just do the smallest, and that's why I always when everything I do, I try to just, what is the simplest possible implementation of this that I can do today? Because I get in my head, I'm like, oh, I want to go learn, I want to go crunch some data on the blockchain, and then I find myself an hour later, I'm looking up a master's degree in data science from through the University of Illinois. And really what I need to do is I just need to go download some data, and I need to just look at it and create a little thing in Excel. So I would really encourage just go grab your friend, do it locally with music, do it with whatever, do it with your writing, do it with this. You want to be in a DAO? Great, you're in a DAO now. I think we should just encourage people to just do the simplest possible implementation of anything, and then in every you're gonna fail, but you're not failing because you're learning, and then you're gonna go, okay, that I messed that up, and then next time I do it, I'm gonna do it with 3 friends, and we're gonna do it like this. And that's how we build. I think that's how we win. I think that's how we win.
Yep, for fun and profit.
Absolutely. Don't get caught shaving yak.
Though.
I mean, I think that's a great point. To just we're still. I mean, it's said over and over again, but we're still in the beginning stages of all this tech. So just try it, and some things will work, like Greg said, and some things won't. And that's one of the good things, is that it's all transparent. It's all there. That's the point. And we're learning what we can do, what we can't do, what's good, what's bad. what's revolutionary, what's just a little bit better. So yeah, just do it.
And I'll say, I'll add one thing to that is if you want people to do it and they don't want to learn, don't tell them they're in a DAO. Just do it anyway. And like, you know, what we're doing is it's an app. Get the app and you get points and then you can vote. Just don't like if they're scared of stuff, just make it simple.
I will tell you
Surprise, you're in a DAO.
Yeah.
the experiment side, it's an interesting thing because that's how I treat all the tech. You know, it's like I will find I have a special way I evaluate stuff, but I will typically just go in and start playing with it and kind of basically you learn a ton. You get in early. You end up with having really good ability to give feedback, and it generates so many ideas. It's like when I started looking at Bitcoin, that's how I looked. And sadly, I mean, I didn't look at it as an investment, right? But I looked at it as like I need to get some of this so that I can play with it and really understand it because it was so abstract and so different. And it ended up, leading to what I'm doing now, right? But it was all about, I just need to get some of this and figure it out and play with it because that's how you learn, right? It's like you're going to screw up some things, you're going to lose money in the Ethereum DAO. Doesn't matter. It's amazing, right? It's all history. It's all cool stuff happening. So
where were you then, if you don't mind me asking, like in your career or whatever? You obviously weren't doing this.
I ran a small research group that catered mostly. We did commercial, but we also did public sector. We had contracts with the FBI, DHS, DOD.
Oh, cool.
And one of our guys brought the white paper in, and he said, "You guys, we should look at this. This is so crazy." And it's 2010. I think it was after the Slashdot article, so I didn't get in below like $2, but we all basically the way we did everything back then. I would tell all the senior guys, okay, you need to get your feet wet. You need to go, do this. And, in 2 weeks, we have to have something, built or done or something else. And in this case, it was, you have to either mine some Bitcoin or go buy some and get them on your local wallet, right? That was the key goal. And all the senior guys did it. And then we gave Bitcoin to all the junior guys. We played poker. We built stupid stuff that went nowhere. But we really experimented and talked and tried to figure out, what else,
so much,
what could be done, right? That was the whole point. What could be done with this technology that isn't, and Satoshi himself, at least remarking about Namecoin, was a big driver. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like this is a Namecoin. I don't know what happened to it, and there are ENS and other things that are more appropriate. What's the other? The Unstoppable, right? That.
And like handshake and stuff.
And handshake. I'm a handshaker.
Yeah, there you go. And it's just a much better way if you plug in SSL to it. If I have the keys, you can prove they're the keys. You don't have to worry about some central organization making sure that my browser has the right keys that could then be, various things can happen with security. There's a bunch of really neat stuff there. Anyway, okay. So we're close to the hour. Let's go through and say, so Dave, what's going on this week?
This week, well, we shifted to weekly governance calls instead of every other week. So later today, 3 p.m. my time in Eastern. So what would that be, like noon on the West Coast, I guess? So governance call today and every Thursday at that time. And then we've got the governance tools on DIN on the desktop app on the website if you have a computer. The app, the iOS and the Android app, it's in staging, I guess, but it's not quite out yet. So that update might be out this week. But yeah, those go play with the tools, because if you were previously, I think I said this last time, but if you were previously a lot holder, an owner, but not an admin, effectively all the owners are admins now, and effectively every layer is a DAO structure now. And then after that's 2022 governance model, we can talk about that next time because it'll be closer to it. So that's what we're still doing. Yep.
Greg, what's going on?
Yeah, usual stuff. We are getting close to Cardinal launch, which is going to make it so Rivet can expand out to a lot of new chains. More word on that coming soon. But in the meantime, as I will always say, go out and build something. If you don't see it, it's not been done yet. Just try it. If somebody else is trying it, you got a better idea, just try it. But if you need help with that, Rivet's here to do so.
Right on. Sean, what's up?
Just kind of winding out the year, trying to chill a little bit, getting ready for Christmas and New Year's. Trying to give away more money the next few weeks to people, but specifically, I'm trying to kind of give away like perpetual income or side hustle money. Ross had talked about some of these Olympus forks that I've gotten into a couple of them, and their rewards are pretty good. So I was wanting to give away some of those to people so they can get that money. Also, Doge Dash, the game is launched. It is in your iOS store on the in your browser or in Android, so you can go download that and play it and earn Doge Dash. That's about it for me.
Right on. Ross, any good stories coming up?
Yeah. Well, story just published. My latest piece just put up globalcryptopress.com, and you can also find us on Apple News and Google News. CIA involvement in crypto goes back further and runs deeper than we previously thought. It's a good article. A lot of interesting implications to this.
Oh boy.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, check it out.
I'll be checking that out presently.
That's amazing, because they're there, but it's no one's written much about it. That's awesome. Great. Okay. Right. Rory, where can people follow you? What should we know about what's coming up?
That's awesome. First off, just really appreciate everybody's time having me on the show. Great time chopping it up with you guys and learned a lot. So thank you so much.
Likewise.
I'm on Twitter at RCM with 4 underscores. I think if you get RCM in there and you start hitting the underscores, you'll find me. I do write, but I haven't written a lot recently. So I think Twitter is probably the best place to find me.
Perfect. And by the way, will you come back? We should have you back. You had some amazing stuff. So
yeah, if you're willing to go down that road, I am too. So.
Excellent. All right. All right. So I'm going to follow you too. And Dragonchain, we have a whole bunch of stuff going on. A lot of stuff's probably not coming out till the beginning of the year. But there's some actually really exciting fundamental things going on that's what excites me. Obviously money excites me, but I think that precedes real money. Anyway, however that works. And make sure if you have any WBRT, World Blockchain Roundtable lot, please go vote on those. In fact, I came up with, you guys will be interested. I came up with one I think I want to put in to propose for a governance vote, which is I'm directing this at me, but in order for a host to be awarded their week's lot, they have to pass on one question, right? So it's like I have to shut up about one thing and let everybody else talk, and that's the only way I could get my lot. Is that work? At least we could set it on me, but I'm going to do that. But either way, go and vote on those, because we really need, or we really want to have them resolved before the 2-week timeout. I mean, they will resolve in 2 weeks, but if we had the answer sooner, we can make the change before the end of the year even. So make sure you share this. The more views it gets, the more lot all of the guests and hosts will get, which is valuable, of course, for governance mostly. And have a good
and I'm
week.
going to be playing video games for money on the gaming layer. So check that out.
It worked, right? How much you made? Like $40 or something?
I made about, I made like $70 on that, which was amazing. Yeah. And so I'm gonna get some friends in, and we're gonna reboot that gaming layer, and we're gonna make some money on it, because I needed some, but I didn't want to buy some. So I was like, I'll just go earn it.
Yes, that's the way. That's the way. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. This was great content. So
thanks y'all.
Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for all the questions. It's amazing. And that's it. Keep building. All right. Talk to you guys later.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.